Hello, good day. Welcome to Naval Training Systems Command, a division of the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division out of Washington, D.C. Naval Training Systems Command is located here in Orlando, Florida. And what I would like to do is give the board a analysis of the organization and its current state, where we have been, and where we are going for the future for naval aviation training and readiness. We'll talk about an introduction. We'll go over the 5 disciplines. We'll talk about the organizational systems and how that affects Training Systems Command. We'll talk about 4 management functions and the concepts of systems correlation and how we operate in our management teams. We'll do a summary of this analysis of the organization and its current state and provide any references at the end. So, welcome again to Naval Training Systems Command. We're located here in Orlando, Florida. We are a federal government defense organization. We have approximately 1,200 employees, civilian government employees that consist of program management, engineering, contracts, and business people mostly. Our business base on a yearly basis is around $1.3 billion. And our mission statement is to help warfighters develop the skills they need to fight and win by the most cost-effective means. And our current vision statement is to be the provider of choice for training and human performance solutions that enable and enhance the capabilities of our nation's warfighters. So Naval Training Systems Command is committed to the training mission for our Navy sailors and Marines. Why are we here? We want to kind of look at Training Systems Command and how it has become a learning organization, what we are doing now as a learning organization, where our strengths are at Training Systems Command, and where our weak areas are, and then finally, what kind of recommendations can be made after we go through this type of analysis. So first, let's look at this concept of the 5 disciplines. System thinking is a critical thing of what we do. We're trying to look at the framework of how interrelationships work here at the command. Not just seeing each employee for a specific role, but making sure that we're looking across our employees and our business base to really understand how that ultimately impacts the naval training mission, which is really important. Command leadership views this relationship between training system commands and other commands so they can ensure the complete framework. So that's command's leadership job to ensure Training Systems Command is fitting into the overall systems thinking through not only the Department of Navy, but also within the Department of Defense. Engineering and program management, really where the work is getting done on a day-to-day basis, needs to apply systems thinking and does that. And there are interrelationships that those 2 groups are looking at are the cost, schedule, and performance trade-offs. Mostly program management is looking at cost and schedule, and engineering and your truly technical workforce is looking at the performance driving. And all of these require a level of systems thinking rather than just snapshots in time. Personal mastery is extremely important. It goes beyond just trying to train a workforce. We want a workforce that is fostering creativity within the workforce, that's reactive to situations as they occur. So we need to ensure personal mastery is happening in each of our various subject matter areas, program management, engineering, contracts, and at the leadership level. This is not a new training program, so we're not asking for money or to develop some type of outside consulting to come in. But we want to focus and try to get people to focus on weak areas, whether that's within leadership and their own personal positions that they're in today, program managers, or those in highly technical fields of engineering. One way that we can do this at Training Systems Command is implement a mentor program, which we have done as part of a learning organization called the iMentor tool. This tool it's an online system and allows an individual to go into the tool, upload their resume, background, work experience, and even their personal activities that they prefer. Proteges can then search that system for mentors based on their preferences. So if you're looking for a mid-career employee who's an engineer like snowboarding and fishing, you can find experiences to team up with someone that can have a mentor-protege relationship. One thing I'll say is this is a partnership. So if you're a mentor, you can learn from the protege just as the protege can learn just as much from the mentor. So both partners are benefiting from this partnership. It is a 2-year work plan. That's what we would like people to do. Again, there is no specific guidelines. These are just best practices. And either can end the mentor-protege relationship at any time, whether they want to move on to another relationship or the relationship is not fostering any type of growth. I encourage everyone to take full advantage of this because this really enables Training Systems Command to become a better learning organization. Mental models, we've had some issues with mental models as we go through this, but we're trying to try to really understand how people are thinking and try to shape that how we act. A good example of this is systems engineering looks at testing currently as acceptance testing being the most important when we accept training systems. The test and evaluation group looks at acceptance testing as not being enough. That they want to do missions-based testing, and that's where we should focus all of our efforts into testing. Both mental models are true. What happens is they end up being a versus situation, and we don't want that to occur. So this is an example of where mental models come into play, and we really want to try to shape this. It can be complex, both technically, politically, in the organization, but trying to understand that both of these are important and where that balance is really important. So we are not increasing cost or schedule, but we're trying to maintain both schedule, cost, and performance as we go about doing testing of training systems. A shared vision, it needs to occur not only at the leadership level, but also at the program management and engineering level. These are the three components that should be creating and enabling the same vision. TSC's vision is to provide the best training systems to our warfighters so they can fight and win. Their lives depend on us and their families depend on us to get them downrange and back home safely. And that's all enabled by good, solid training systems and training programs for our Navy and Marines. Team learning is also an important aspect to really create an environment where we're aligning and developing people based on a learning organization. We just went through a restructuring where we took our integrated product teams and now we have them co-located, sitting together. Training Systems Command identified this as a weak area and has done this, has shown signs of an improvement. So creating this atmosphere that fosters teams really helps to develop the systems thinking model and enables shared vision to occur across the product teams. In conclusion, looking at the 5 disciplines, systems thinking, that's where we're focusing on interrelationships both internally and externally within the command. Personal mastery, we have the iMentor tool. Take great advantage of that. It's a great tool. Mental models, is that process alignment. I gave an example of testing. We need to identify where these mental model gaps are occurring, and this is just one example. Enabling the shared vision of training to fight and win. And team learning, we just went through the IPT co-location, which is enabling us to be better team learners in our environment. So let's look at organizational systems. So we have really 2 organizational systems that apply here at Training Systems Command. You could look at a variety of them, but for all intents and purposes here, we'll look at the institutional theory and the agency theory of how that's applicable here at Training Systems Command. The institutional theory it encourages an open systems approach of how we shape the organization and develop the organization. That social interaction can be between employee and management relationships, outside relationships, the policy that we have, which is the rules of the road or legal aspect, the public, which is where all of our funds come from tax dollars, and then the duty of us as public employees and the trust of the public to go do our jobs. The mission or the goal or execution, the train to fight to win. And within each area, we can apply this institutional theory across policy, legislation, contractors, and the government. Agency theory is where we're looking at a principal and some type of agent. Impacts our business almost every day and is really at the core of what we do. Where the principal is the U.S. government and the agent is a contractor, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, whoever they may be, who's developing a certain system. And there's these trade-offs that occur under budget, over budget, under schedule, over schedule, underperformance, overperformance. That's constantly occurring that creates this balance between industry and the government organizations to ensure we are expending funds appropriately and ultimately getting the best solution to the warfighter who's actually doing the training to get there safely and back home safely. So the agency theory certainly impacts our organization. If we look at the STAR model, which is this framework of how we operate within the strategy structure, our processes, the reward systems, and people, which is the human resources management component. We have a little bit, I narrowed down the org chart that we have, so we didn't have a real big org chart that we're showing here. I think everyone's familiar with how that works. But you have a command leadership and then really three important pillars of program management, engineering, and contracts, where we're all trying to work together these four components and drive this STAR model. Strategy, it's really determined by the Secretary of Defense and then the Secretary of Navy and flows down from there. So the strategy is really determined by the Secretary of Defense, which really implements the President of the United States goals and ambitions into place since he is the Commander-in-Chief. The structure is the matrix organization. That's what we are structured as with leadership, program management, engineering, contractors, as we just saw there in the previous slide. Our processes, we both have informal and formal processes. Our informal is really our day-to-day interactions, and then our formal processes is our business and management execution. This is probably one of our weakest areas in the government organization. We can have a lot of business and legal processes that bog us down bureaucratically. So if there's one area where we need to focus and do more work, it's in the processes area of the STAR model. Reward systems, mostly based on work performance. We use the GS scale of GS7. There may be some GS5s, but that's very uncommon. Normally we're at the GS7 through GS15 level. And then we also have the Senior Executive Service, which is sort of like your, in the industry, your Chief Executive Officer, your CEO. And those folks are actually confirmed by Congress. Team recognition, we do that through plaques, coins, and other monetary items. Have some really great reward systems put into place, and I think has been working really well. People, many training opportunities in higher education, job rotations, and recruiting. Lots of training opportunities for higher education and in getting master's degrees and doctoral degrees. Tuition stipends that can be completely paid for. Completely paid for. So a lot of effort gone into the reward systems and the people part of the Training Systems Command organization. In conclusion, institutional theory and agency theory, these are important systems to understand these systems and how they enable us to do our jobs. Looking at those social interactions, both internally and externally. As a government organization, sometimes we have a tendency to look only internally, and we do need to make sure that we're ensuring we're looking externally, not only to other government organizations, but also out to industry, because that's ultimately how we get things done. Agency theory that governs how we interact between those types of entities, where we, the government, and our contractors are developing the systems. In the STAR model, it's important for us to understand how these pillars drive each other. It kind of goes back to that systems thinking. That's really what we're looking at there in the STAR model. You just can't look at one piece. You got to look at the entire framework. And one thing that we need to do better is streamline processes, reduce bureaucracy, and empower people to make decisions. Don't let issues fester within the STAR model, and bringing that to leadership's attention as soon as possible. And finally, let's look at the four management functions and system correlation here at NOTTSD. Introduction. Four functions of management. We look at planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. Planning, leading, organizing, controlling. These are all direct tie of how we can become a stronger learning organization. Each per individual has a role independent of whether or not they are a supervisor, a leader, or an employee. Honestly believe these four functions of management can be applicable to anyone within the organization because we're always planning something, leading something, organizing an element, or controlling an element. Even at the lowest level, it could just be a design specification or planning for a meeting or a review or a contract review. So don't look at these as just aspects of management. Planning this is the way we monitor our employees to ensure it aligns with TSC's goals. Command leadership plans and monitors this to ensure the strategy and the shared vision is being met. Program management monitors this to ensure that their program goals are being met, their objectives are being met, that cost and schedule component. Engineering monitors this to ensure that the requirements are being met to ensure that we can ultimately meet this mission to train, fight, and win. So planning is where it all begins with each of us. Leading is taking all that information and providing focus and clarity so we know how to go get the job done. John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. We've had John Maxwell come and speak to our organization in the past. We'll look to have that happen again in the future. A good read to review some of these laws of leadership. Command sets the example and the vision. That mental model should be, we are here to serve you. Again, tying that mental model, that's how these things all correlate and tie together. Program management leads their IPT teams. They should be able to keep their teams on budget, on schedule, and meet performance requirements. Engineering, they also lead from a technical aspect, making sure they provide quality and timely results to ensure decisions are being made. And this also applies to our contracting partners. So each element has a leading role. It just depends on where you sit, what that strategy is for leading based on where you are in the organization. Organizing, allocation of resources. This is really important in a budget-constrained environment. Positions of leadership should look at that STAR model and look at where we should be allocating resources appropriately. There might be one place where we need to allocate more resources than the other. Program management and engineering, they use integrated master schedules to help them allocate resources. Another thing is identifying risks upfront and early. This ensures we can understand where there might be a resource constraint and where that resource, we need to either remove resources from one place and put them somewhere else. We only have a certain amount of resources, people, money, facilities, assets. So we have to ensure those resources are being allocated appropriately. And this is where organizing comes into great play. And now finally, let's look at controlling. Controlling is ensuring that we actually follow these processes and we're meeting the processes' goals and intents. Again, each one has their own specific. Command leadership, business unit, and strategic. That's really what they're looking at, the business unit models and the strategic. That's what they control. Program management controls the cost, schedule, and performance. Engineering controls technical aspects. Our contractors, Lockheed Martin's, Boeing's, Northrop Grumman, their development, production, and delivery. That's where their controlling aspects occur. These processes need to be more lean and efficient. We have many layers of bureaucracy across controlling, and they should be removed if allowed by law. There are obviously certain legal aspects we have to follow as a government organization, and I'm asking no one to break any laws here. But if there's a process in place or some control method over top of something just for bureaucratic methods or reasons, we need to look at removing that. And that's one aspect we can look at how we ensure these four functions of management are occurring appropriately. In conclusion, planning, leading, organizing, and controlling are applicable across the command, not just with a management individual if you're in a management position. Our strengths, I believe, are in the planning and leading component of these four functions, and our weaker areas are in the organizing and controlling. And remember systems thinking when handling these organizing and controlling, and we can help to strive to become a stronger learning organization. And finally, let's wrap up with a summary of the analysis that we just went through. Broke these into strengths and weaknesses. I thought this is a good way to kind of just run through here the analysis of what we just did with this organizational analysis of Training Systems Command. We do a good job at practicing as a learning organization. The Personal Mastery and the iMentor tool are good examples of that. We just went through the team learning aspect and trying to enable team learning in the IPT co-location. We've seen data models that shown that it has improved team learning. STAR model, we do a good job of taking care of our people. NOC TSD in 2015 ranked 5th on the Orlando Sentinel list of top 100 companies for working families. So if you're recognized for that, congratulations. And a strategy and shared vision of train, fight, and win, and ultimately patriotism. These are the elements that I think are the strongest within our organization at Training Systems. Where we are weak, mental models. I gave just one example briefly of the system engineering and test differences. We could find a multitude of mental model issues across the command. So this is one thing where we need to focus a lot of resources at is changing these mental models and trying to understand each various competencies, roles, and responsibilities, and ensuring that we understand how to act as a team. STAR model, the processes component of the STAR model is hindered. We need to look at bureaucratic processes and layers and ensure those are getting removed if there's no reason for safety or legal aspect. The structure that we have is bureaucratic, so ensuring that we have clear levels of chain of command and that people can get information to the right individuals and know who those individuals are. And then the organizing and controlling of management. Again, that goes back to the bureaucratic aspect of Training Systems Command and the government organization and ensuring that we are removing layers that are hindering progress to meet our strategy and shared vision of train, fight, and win. Speed to the fleet. Recommendations. We can do better. Systems thinking, we can do better, more increased in helping change those mental models. STAR model evaluation, ensuring that we're removing bureaucratic layers. The 4 management functions and how each area organizes and controls those resources and ensuring that we have the right resources going to the right areas. And we are budget constrained, so it's important that we look at the budget and how we apply systems thinking, 5 disciplines, 4 functions of management, and the STAR model. Our nation is counting on you. Our mission is vital to not only the national security of America, but also here at home and abroad. Here are the references for this analysis. And then lastly, I'm going to leave you with the video. If you care to listen and watch this video from Admiral Crosslags, which is our Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division lead commander. He is the ultimate authority up in Washington, D.C. So we'll play this video, and at the end, we will be done.
I don't believe there's another organization, either inside the Navy or external to the Navy, that is more important to our future of naval aviation than is NAVAIR. And if you look at what NAVAIR brings to the table, all the way from before we even start a program and our analysis of alternatives that are largely done by our folks at NAVAIR, through development, production, sustainment, and all the way till we retire these aircraft, the weapons or the weapons systems. NAVAIR is an integral piece of that through the entire process. Well, I've spent a tremendous amount of time during my 30-plus year career here at NAVAIR in various roles, all the way from the time when I was a test pilot through a program executive officer, vice commander, and now my current job. So I've got, I think, a very good understanding of what NAVAIR can do, what we bring to the game, so to speak. So I'm very comfortable working in the NAVAIR organization, but I think my last 2 years at the Secretariat very much broadened my perspective on how NAVAIR and naval aviation fit in the larger Department of the Navy as well as the Department of Defense picture. You'll hear me talk about two things primarily. The first is current readiness, and the second is our ability to afford our future, the capability and the capacity of our aircraft and our weapons systems in the future. Let me talk about the current readiness a little bit. Today we have far too many aircraft on our flight lines that the fleet cannot fly. We have approximately 25 different type model series of aircraft in the fleet today. Out of those, only 5 of those type model series have the required number of aircraft ready for flight on any given day. What that means is our squadron commanding officers are having to make trade-offs, whether it's a training mission or operational requirement, on a daily basis because they do not have the required number of ready basic aircraft, RBA. So you'll hear us talking about the RBA gap, ready basic aircraft gap. And that's one of the things we have to go after. The second thing is about affordability and, more importantly, the speed with which we can bring capability and new capacity to the fleet. And if you look at our potential adversaries, they're delivering new capabilities to their warfighters more quickly than we're delivering new stuff to our sailors and Marines. I strongly believe we still have a technical advantage, but we no longer have a capacity. We don't have more stuff than our adversaries. So we have to double down on that technical advantage where we can, and that requires us to get additional new technologies into the fleet as quickly as possible. We know how to fix this. It's as simple as reallocating the resources to those areas, those tasks that we know we need to either do because we haven't been doing them in the past, or we need to do better because we haven't done them to the extent we need to. So I've asked our commanders, our Warfare Center commanders at NOC-AD and NOC-WD, as well as COMFRC, and our headquarters staff, to coordinate and collaborate with our program executive officers and our competencies to identify areas where we need to apply additional resources to address either of the problems that we've just discussed, current readiness or speed to the fleet. So we're going to look for places we need to put resources, and then correspondingly, we're going to look to areas where we believe we can take additional risk. We will look for ideas not only from leadership, but through every level of the organization, because it's the workforce, quite honestly, that knows what work we're doing that may be of lesser value to our sailors and Marines. It's also the workforce who can identify those areas where we critically need to apply more resources in able to deal with one of our tactical issues. NAVAIR is a great place to work. No place else in naval aviation do we bring together everything that makes aviation tick. To have the opportunity to lead this great organization that I've been a part of for probably the most part of my 30-plus year career is just a great opportunity for me personally. And I think this is, quite honestly, for the entire organization, this is a crucial point in time as we try and address this current readiness issue, but also at the same time focus on our future and what capabilities we need to get out to our sailors and Marines.
Well, thank you for your time. I hope you found this interesting. The Admiral spoke to many things that we just went through in the organizational analysis of Training Systems Command. It's a real-world application to what we discussed here today. Thank you, and goodbye.